better rolling dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice.
Good morning, Matt.
Hey, morning, Rob.
You know what the listeners really love about this podcast? What makes us different and special from other podcasts?
That there's two guys.
There's two dudes, two white dudes talking to each other. That's our unique value proposition. No, Matt.
Yep.
It's our archival research. It's our dedication to scouring and delving into the archives.
Yeah, this is our comparative advantage for sure.
our dedication to doing the hard work of plunging and coordinating the archive. Hello, everyone. It's Dungeon Master of None.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Rob. And today we are going to be doing just that, going deep into the archive, going back to a classic Dragon magazine to learn from our elders, to discover what the ancients may have known that we no longer know. This is like the Greeks looking to their cyclopean monuments of the old palace builders and saying, what wonders might these have contained? Except we actually have them written down, so it's not really like that at all.
Right. It's not as hard of a problem. We're probably slightly better about getting distracted by large rocks.
A little bit better.
Something that people built. But, yeah. We don't want any of our grandsons to ever look up to us, with tears in their eyes, and we say, "Hey, we don't know how to build that type of game system anymore."
Yeah, we forgot. We don't know how.
We forgot how to build a percentile die anymore. We don't have the skills anymore.
Today we're gonna be talking about Dragon Magazine number 161.
Nice.
Volume 15, number 4, September of 1990.
Great time.
Great time. The Soviet Union has not collapsed, but it's going to soon. America is ascendant. Everybody's playing role-playing games. And USA. And on the cover, we've got what appears to be an elf and perhaps a halfling fleeing from a dragon. On the back, there's the explosive X-Men X-Explosive.
Nice.
Yeah. And there's a lot of great stuff in this magazine, but I want to talk specifically. There's in the special attractions section, there's 4 pieces under the heading, "Why is the DM smiling? 4 ways to enliven your fantasy game campaigns."
Oh, wow!
And the one that I want to talk
spicy.
about, I want to talk about is, "It's Sort of Like a Wand" by Gary Kappa.
Wait. Pause on 2 things. Is this meant to be an innuendo with the smiling and the wand? It's like, it's sort of like a wand, honey.
I don't think so, unfortunately.
Okay, all right.
I do
it's
wish
an innocent time, the 90s.
it was. These are not. Well, I don't want to say they're not like clever people, but like I'm not sure that they are subtle or nuanced enough to making those sorts of innuendos. Also, the section before this that we are not going to read is Romance and Adventure by Tom Schlosser, and the subtitle is "Romance in a Fantasy Game? You're kidding, right?" So I'm not sure that these fellows are thinking about their wands very much at all, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, who was the author, Rob?
Gary Kappa.
Whatever happened to Gary Kappa? The strong silent type.
That's right.
That was an American.
That was an
He was
American.
in touch with his feelings. I'm just imagining Tony Soprano. Yes.
Whatever happened to
being
Gary
confused.
Kappa?
Based on it's COPPA,
PPA.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Matt, do you have this?
Yeah.
Do you have access
okay,
to
I've
this?
got it pulled up now.
Okay.
Yes.
Will you let us do this opening scenario? We'll just alternate. Will you start with player 1 and we'll read each section
Okay, sure.
in turn?
Woo. That was a tough battle. I thought those 4 Koa Toa had us for a second.
Yeah, good thing I had my sword +2. I only needed an 8 to hit their armor class of 4.
Player 3. You mean it's a good thing my 3rd level fighter thief henchman, Gondam, picked one of their pockets and found that potion of speed. His 2 attacks per round did it.
Okay, guys, let's not fight about it. We all did well. Now, rubbing his hands together, the treasure. All players turn to look at the Dungeon Master.
DM, shuffling papers and rolling a few dice. You find a spear +1, a potion of fire breath, a wand of metal and mineral detection with only 5 charges left, 100 electrum pieces, and 5 gems.
How much are the gems worth?
Jesus Christ, how long? DM, rolling more dice. 20 gold pieces each. You're splitting up the treasure when suddenly ...
Thank you for bearing with me.
Yeah.
Now we get to the actual article itself.
There's a big thing at the bottom of the page that says, "So what's missing?" I'm just I don't know. Anything I care about?
I'm gonna get to that.
Yeah.
I'm getting to that.
All right.
I'm getting that.
Okay.
What's wrong with this picture of an AD&D registered trademark game? It seems perfectly fine. The treasure is rich but
Does
not
it?
excessive. The monsters were tough but not too easy or too hard. The magical items are reasonable and did not upset game balance. In fact, the DM did an admirable job of avoiding all the usual game balance pitfalls. So what's missing? There we go. That's the
Yeah, okay. I don't know. I would say based on the way the players are talking, maybe it's a great game for 1990. This is the best you can do. So maybe I shouldn't criticize.
As we will get to, there's a lot of things missing, but I think that this article is very interesting and instructive, both to examine how far the game has come and also as a lesson for what not to do, and also some things to do, but largely what not to do.
It's like getting mad at Chaucer for not using CGI 3D special effects in his novel. It's maybe they didn't know there was anything else in 1990. Of course,
maybe they didn't know.
Yeah, I'm just joking.
Going on back to Mr. Kappa.
Okay,
Mr. Kappa. The
Mr.
answer
Kappa.
is mystery. The players know everything.
Gary Kappa was gay. Sorry, just
they know everything. They know exactly what their player character's magical items can do and what their PC's limits are, how skilled the PC's henchmen are, what PCs are fighting, and what its abilities are, and how much the valuables are worth without getting them appraised. What is lacking is the sense of the unknown, the feeling that there are secrets left in the game world for the characters to unravel. Even a seasoned PC of 18 years experience will only have a tiny amount of knowledge about the myriad of monsters and artifacts listed in the AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide and Monstrous Compendium. So how can he possibly recognize a potion of flame breath, especially if he has never seen one before?
That was what was missing. They just picked it up and it's just a potion of fire breath.
That's right. What's funny, well, there's lots of things that are funny about this to me. I don't know about you, Matt, but the idea of a group of player characters or players that knows anything about what's in the books is kind of a novel idea to me, much less a group that knows everything that's in the books.
Well, it's the difference between playing with people who have jobs and other activities and people who don't. You know, if I didn't have any other activities, I would know everything about every role-playing game I ever played in.
That's true. To be fair, there was a time when I was such a person and when the people I played with were that type of person. And the first time I had a player argue with me about a monster that they were fighting because they had read the monster manual, I became incandescent with rage, and I was like, "This is not how this works."
You ascended, yeah.
Don't talk to me about what's in the monster manual. All right. So this I do buy that this has been and might be a legitimate concern at some levels of play. But it is kind of funny that this is considered, I think, common enough in 1990 that it goes sort of without comment, that this is a well-run D&D campaign right here.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure we'll get to it when we get to the magic items section, but I think they're, of course, they're, to be serious, is something to be said hey, do you want to give your players a mystery potion, or do you want to hand it to them and say, is this a potion of invisibility? We've
talked about this at length, but fifth edition tried to address this because they realized that it was less fun and magical to just get another sword +1 or +2. They fixed it badly. They broke magic items in a different way, but there is an understanding that this has been an issue that it's not all that much fun to just get a +1 or +2 or just a list of loot that you automatically know. So anyway, back to Mr. Gary Kappa. What this campaign needs is a dose of good old-fashioned mystery. There are many ways this mystery can be introduced, and these can be divided into 4 general categories: monsters, magic, money, and miscellaneous. Also, the 4 Harry
That's
Potter houses.
nice. Yeah, the 4. Wait, yes, okay. Yep. Yeah, I see it.
Yep,
Hufflepuff. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. All right, we're gonna skip around a bit because
Monsters.
this is a lot. But let's start with monsters.
Yeah.
Monsters are the most common obstacle that characters are likely to encounter. But this does not mean that monsters should be common, run-of-the-mill automatons that seem as if the DM pulled them off the assembly line. Monsters are supposed to be horrifying nightmares from myth and legend, and each encounter should be a new, exciting challenge for the characters, not just, ho-hum, another 8-hit dice Hydra. The characters should never be allowed to be entirely sure about their opponent's capabilities. So this is actually good advice, and this, I think,
Yeah, I think so.
this reminds me of what we talked about in our Monsters as Puzzles episode, because a big problem is that often monsters even in modern D&D are just like big sacks of hit dice that you have to, drain before you win, and that's not very
Right.
fun or satisfying.
And you're not actually sure of their abilities and strengths and weaknesses or vulnerabilities. And then it's not just like the good advice, which we'll, I guess, see if the article gets to, isn't just, hey, give a random Hydra, a different ability, but like, instead of rewarding learning the monster manual or the rules, reward engaging play. Hey, can we, I've been at a local con all weekend, and running our favorite sci-fi game, Mothership, and it's all about, hey, this monster could have all kinds of terrifying abilities. Will you get a chance to look at it, keep your wits, and then report back to your team what this thing actually does, and then if you can get away from it,
Yeah. That's what makes the like fun and terror and excitement of Mothership so good, is you don't know, and you might not survive to find out, and a big part of playing is trying to figure out what the deal is. So he does sort of address this.
Nice.
A little bit. This idea can be expanded by not always strictly following the statistics for monsters given in the books. While any alterations made by the DM should not be completely off the wall, they should keep characters guessing. For instance, take a variation on an example from an old Dragon magazine. Consider a goblin with 1876 strength. Now, for our younger listeners, this is a very high strength score in AD&D 2nd edition. There used to be 18, and then there were another set of numbers if you had 18 strength, because it was hard to get to 19 strength. None of this matters, but for context, 1876 is very high strength for a goblin. Not an extremely big change, but the characters may have pause when the creature does up to 10 HP damage with its short sword. When the goblin's sword breaks and it grabs Arthur's heavy lance and hurls it at Galahad, the characters will be more wary of those puny creatures they once thought were such pushovers. I like this example. I actually think that I love doing sort of like a little like twist. I think a super strong goblin is a really fun idea. This would be a cool thing to throw into one of your campaigns. Could be a goblin, could be a kobold, or anything, like something that you wouldn't normally expect to be wielding a gigantic great axe or something, but suddenly turns out to be just an absolute beefcake. I think that's a really small thing that you can do. Another thing is giving something that's normally beefy, like magical abilities instead. It's not a huge change, but it's enough so that when your players see an orc or a goblin or whatever, they're not going to automatically assume they know what they're dealing with.
As long as players, through luck and skill, have a chance to like figure out that information, then it can make play more, or combat encounters, adventure encounters, more exciting. Oh, there's just one strong goblin that can actually hurt us and hurt us really badly. Maybe that's the goblin the druid casts heat metal on and gets rid of his axe. Perfect.
I mean, like Mr. Kappa said, don't go too crazy with this. Like, don't give, something random like paralyzing touch or power word kill or something. Don't trick your players with something that's like completely unbalanced. But a small change to a standard monster is a good way to make sure that they are being clever, paying attention, and like trying to learn about their foes rather than just going in swinging every single time. Okay, moving on.
Before we wait, Rob, two things.
Sure.
Before we move on, which is on the page we've been reading, just because we want to give you the full archival experience, is some artwork by Jim Holloway, which not only has everyone inspecting a plunger, which they think is a wand, a group of adventurers, but the wizard has several diagrams, including one of a wrench, one of a woman that we can clearly see has a marked out in a diagram 36 25 36
it's 87 25 30. That's a 25 waist.
Okay. 87. Okay, all right.
87 bust, 36 hips. Like, listen, listeners.
But
I'm just showing you what's on the page.
yeah. And the main thing, though, is I think a halfling adventurer that looks like they are wearing like just a little front genitals pocket and nothing else. It might just be a flap
with a zipper.
It's a cod piece. Okay, it's a cod piece with a zipper. But I think they might be wearing tights, but it doesn't look like they are. I don't know.
It's
quite
hard
disturbing.
to tell. This is
black
truly
and white art.
An amazing piece of art.
I mean, nothing prepared me, Rob, for flipping to the next page though with a 2-page spread.
Sorry, on the next page. Sorry, listeners, you can look at all these dragons. There's an archive you can look at for free. There's a big fucking picture of a fantasy collector doll,
Bethneen,
Queen Galadriel, with the most like unsettling doll expression I have ever seen in my life. How much? Let's see.
I can smell it in the air, Rob. The Lord of the Glittering Caves was so in love with her that he was willing to trade all the treasures of Middle Earth for a single strand of her golden hair.
This is a
Queen
59
Galadriel, a fantasy collector doll inspired by the beautiful heroine of The Lord of the Rings. And this is made by Greg Hildebrand. You can order it by September 30th, 1990 from Franklin Heirloom Dolls, Franklin Center, Pennsylvania, 19091.
So this is the payment is $59.
Jesus Christ.
I just did the calculation. That is $151 in 2026.
So the deposit is $59.
Yes.
And there's 4 more monthly installments after that. So you're looking at $600 plus the deposit.
It's $753 is the full price.
Plus tax and shipping.
Wow.
Would you, Rob, are you bad enough, dude, to buy a $1,000 Queen Galadriel?
Somebody was making money off these nerds in 1990. I don't know who.
I mean, I would rather see 3 shelves of precious moments than this standing in the corner. I don't even know the dimensions. This thing could be
how
huge.
Big is this?
Her graceful sculptured hands and legs are also crafted of luminous bisque.
Doll shown smaller than actual size of approximately 22 inches. So this is slightly less than a 2-foot doll. Anyway, enough
so
about
the size of an average wand.
It's sort of a wand. All right, moving on. Given monsters that the characters have previously encountered, it is probable that the PCs will know what they face. Any second level idiot can recognize a kobold. Can they? Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
On the other hand, if the monster is actually some rare exotic creature that simply looks like something the characters recognize, then the DM is justified in describing it as such. In the case of the humanoids mentioned previously, the characters would probably assume that the armored humanoids were orcs until the foes turned into wolves, threw a fireball, or did something similar. Humans make observations based on past experiences.
Yeah.
If there's no reasonable crew, do halflings make do halflings
like a
make
lot of things? Yeah.
observations based on past experiences? Do elves? Do dwarves? Or is it only humans? If there's no reasonable clue that a monster is different, then the characters will logically believe their opponents are orcs. Then, when the first fireball hits the party, the DM can say, well, they looked like orcs. I do want to say, don't do that. Or maybe don't do that precisely in that way. Give some.
I do like when you're making a monster that you've made up, or it's like a weird thing from fantasy, right? It's way more evocative, as the next example says. It's a thing with grasshopper legs and lion talons and the face of a man.
Right.
Instead of just saying it's a manticore or whatever like that, right? That is cool.
That is cool. This is a good habit to get into, and I actually do like this from this article, is get in the habit of describing what your players are seeing, even if it's a brief description, instead of saying there's a group of orcs, there's a group of goblins, there's a dragon, there's a manticore. Even if they've encountered a manticore or a dragon before, say that it's a creature with a lion's head and this and that, or there are humanoid creatures that are low to the ground and they appear to be wearing leather armor and carrying spears. They can probably might not be any trick. They can reasonably infer that that's a whatever, but I think it's more engaging and more interesting. And if you do throw a wrench here and there, your players will be prepared, because you're not just saying, oh, they're goblins, and then the goblins aren't something else or are something else.
Yeah. No, I mean, it can just be way better, especially same goes for like sci-fi, if an NPC is like, there's a ghost in that cargo bay, and if you say, well, there's like a swarm of gray mist that forms several different faces as you open the door, that's way more interesting than just being like, you see the nanite swarm. Okay, fine.
It's haunted.
Now we know what it is. Yeah.
That's actually a great point. Definitely. And until you're like ready to be like, it's a monster. Like I've done this in my Mothership games. Like my players have gotten to the point where they have learned everything that they possibly can. And then the next time they see it, I'm like, there's a monster in the room with you. But until then, just describe what they're seeing and let them draw their own inferences. Don't, this is a good habit for really any type of game.
Nice.
He goes on to give some advice about how when you see something from far away, or if there's weather or other, you can, this is good advice. Don't.
Rob, I'm ready for the next M though. I want to hear the next M.
We're getting to the next M. I just, a little bit more good advice, but let's get to magic. Okay. Let's talk about the next M.
Magic.
And you're going to love this, Matt. Webster's ninth new collegiate dictionary describes magic as...
Let's go! We got one in the wild. I'm so excited.
defines magic as extraordinary power, influence seemingly from a supernatural force. In a fantasy role-playing game like...
You could write in a magazine, Rob, with the skills you learned in middle school in 1990. There were jobs for everyone,
There were
Rob.
jobs for everybody. In a fantasy role-playing system like the AD&D game, magic is the mystical force that heroes, monsters, and gods draw upon to perform feats unattainable in the modern world, and as such is better understood by those who live in fantasy worlds than by us. But it is not much understood. Why are there so few wizards in fantasy worlds?
Right.
Magic is such a complex and variable force, taking on myriad aspects in the game universe, that it takes years or centuries of devoted study to even begin to understand it. Yet many DMs allow players to blithely interpret and identify magical signs as if the PCs were the most studied of mages.
Oh, I was reading a book that you would like. It's like self-published, but it's like what if you had to go to grad school to learn magic?
That's a great idea.
But it's our world like a physicist in India in like 1977 just accidentally discovers magic. But you have to learn differential equations and meditation to do it.
That rules. That's such a good idea. Well, that's actually a great point, because like the thing that this paragraph reveals to me, and I have known and understood about the errors of Dungeons and Dragons is that from the beginning, it was designed by a bunch of fucking nerds, insurance adjusters and engineers. And
Right.
so like they're like, well, what if magic, but the magic occurs in precisely in these 9 circles, levels of ability, and every magical item is very precisely constructed and operates exactly the same across every campaign and so on and so forth. And like,
Right.
I cannot
what
believe
what if it was like wargaming gear you could give your unit, you know?
I know,
Right.
but I'm like, I can't believe we've put up with this. How do we allow these nerds to take magic from us? Ridiculous. Anyway, I strongly agree that magic should be like magical. This is also why sorry listeners, why I hate magic systems. Sorry to Brando Sando and his friends, but like I do not think that magic should operate like science. I think that if you want to do that, call it alchemy. But yeah, anyway, the point is that this is a good point that you something is lost or something is like a little less interesting when your players just like find a bunch of cool magical loot and then you give them an Excel spreadsheet with everything that they found in it.
I think there is a range of options that are both fun and enjoyable for players, which I think is the part this article is missing. It is fun to just get a reward in a game that like, hey, this is a new high repeating plasma rifle, or
Right.
this is a magic boots of going really fast, and just know what they are, right? However, there's also a bit of fun where there's like, hey, there's this weird gun, you know,
Yeah,
you shoot it at the bad guy if you're desperate. So that's what it does, you know, kind of moment. Or same like, well, fuck it, we ball, drink this random potion. Oh, I guess I'm big now. You know,
Yeah.
let's see if we can use that. Both are acceptable, right?
Yeah.
At different moments and in different types of games.
Well, and Matt's using sci-fi examples, but I think that's good because I that makes sense to me, right? Like your players will get excited.
Same shit, Rob.
Your players will get excited if they're like, oh yeah, here's a smart gun, because they're like, oh shit, that's cool. But then you're like, oh, here's like an alien artifact. You don't know what it does, but I don't know, it might give you like extra dimensional psychic powers. Who knows? Like that. Those are both different types of rewards, and your campaign should have both, right? Like, here's a cool thing, you know what it is, you can immediately use it, and here's a mystery, or here's something you might have to identify or go to an expert to find out about, but it's really powerful and cool. And yeah, here's another paragraph that may or may not be super relevant, but I think it's funny, so I'm going to read it anyway. Another common mistake made by inexperienced DMs is to tell the players what a magical item is and what it does, whether or not the characters can be reasonably expected to know this. For instance, in the example at the beginning of the article, the DM told the characters that they had found a wand of metal and mineral detection. Most likely, none of them had ever seen one before. Even if they had, all such wands by no means look identical. Some may have ancient carvings depicting the wand's use, others may have magical command words inscribed on them, and still others may be entirely featureless. True. Sorry, this part's really funny to me. True, an amulet of the plains may be very easy to tell from a phylactery of long ears. Really? I just have no idea what either of those things are.
I guess. I don't
but it
know.
would most likely be indistinguishable, barring any descriptive carvings on the surface, from a medallion of ESP. This especially applies to potions, which can be of any color, consistency, taste, or odor. No guarantee exists that if your last transparent green potion was a potion of extra healing, your next transparent green potion will be too, or even that your next extra healing potion will be transparent green.
Well, I suppose in a magic world, Gary, that is true. If you play a game with your friends where that is the case, they might be having a bad time. It's like, oh, the green potion heals us. The next green potion kills you. Okay, well, why did you bother to tell me the first one was green? You know, just to trick me.
I mean,
but yeah, no, it is fun to like give players a wand. It and they can tell, it detects things, and so they try it out, and it points to a bag of gold, and it's like, okay, it's a bag of some kind of metal detection. It's a metal detector, right? And then they figure it out. But you know, I've done this before with certain groups, and they've just kept unknown wand in their inventory for
Like, that's-
who knows how
yeah,
long.
I
Right?
was thinking about that. The problem is that if you sometimes if you don't tell them, they just like forget that they have it, and they never bother with the item that you gave them. Speaking of playing a game with your friends, there's another funny bit a little bit further on. So now we come to the problem of players who have memorized the magical item lists. Consider a player's comment that took place in a game run by a friend of mine. Magic boots, huh? Well, let's see. There's dancing, speed, striding, and springing, levitation. Try jumping up and down. So here's the thing. Listeners, if a player of yours did anything like this in a game that you were running, you should tell them,
Yeah.
don't do that. Fucking knock it off, dude. That's like literal metagaming, but like it isn't like the sort of like gray area metagaming. It's like that's annoying metagaming. That's the kind of like metagaming that we all talk about actually stopping. That's super fucking annoying. Don't let people do that in your games.
At this point, running D&D for people who want to play but don't have a lot of time, and or running D&D for like small children, if either of those groups knew 5 of the types of magic boots, I have to admit, Rob, I would be so impressed with that player. I would be like, yeah, you figure it out. So I, sure, it's metagaming, but I would be impressed at this point.
I did run a game for kids this last summer, and one of the kids had clearly D&D had become his hyperfixation, so he'd clearly like read every single one of the books and like did know everything and was like arguing with me about the rules. And I was so like taken like aback and off guard that I didn't even like bother me. I was like, this is so like
back to your own childhood.
I know, it was like reminding me of being like a teenager myself, and I was like, this is kind of refreshing. Like you're being annoying, but also it's kind of delightful. This thing that hasn't happened to me in over a decade. But yeah, it is
Since
funny.
you so far back, you're like, oh fuck, I gotta go to bed early, wake up for swim practice at 5 a.m.
It was like having stress dreams about
straight back to high school.
My SAT or whatever.
Taking the PSATs, yeah.
Jesus. It is funny to like read these old articles, and like clearly enough people thought, maybe like 2 people, but thought that this was like a relevant enough anecdote to include in Dragon Magazine, that this is the kind of thing that enough people have to deal with on a regular basis that it's worth giving some advice for. How different times are.
Yeah.
Here's another, I think pretty like good bit of advice. Another problem, and one that has always been a sort of a pet peeve of mine, concerns magical weapon pluses. This seems to go against the fantasy feeling that game designers have worked so hard to build up. Consider Malakon the Mighty, arrayed in his plate mail of etherealness, resplendent in his girdle of storm giant strength, and wielding his mighty long sword +4. Armor, swords, and other weapons are magically enchanted and are no more numbers than a wand of fireballs is a simple 6 to 36 wand. The magic and mystery of enchanted weapons seem to be lost somewhere in the number shuffle. When I first tried to remedy this in my campaigns, I introduced a sword +2 to my players as a beautifully wrought longsword enchanted so as to magically guide the wielder's hand. The players looked astounded and proceeded to vie for the chance to possess this amazing artifact. I no longer tell the characters what the 2-hit bonuses of their few magic weapons are. If they consult a mage to identify an item, he can deduce some small area of relative powers of 2 magical swords, but the characters have no absolute scale for judgments. Good advice.
Wow. Is it? What? That sounds like making your life incredibly complicated. Every player has a magic sword. They know it's +1 to +3. I know the real answer, and so every time I'm like doing the math for them, I would drive myself insane.
Good advice until the last sentence. I apologize.
Yeah.
No, you should not keep a secret list of what the actual magic items are. That is both annoying and extra work. Actually, sorry, I want to read the next part, which addresses that, which is, it is an easy thing to keep a small note pinned to the inside of the DM screen.
No, it's not.
Noting the magical bonuses of each character's weapons. To me, it adds spice to an otherwise boring topic. Now, this is bad advice. Do the first
to
part.
me,
do not do the part where you are the only one who knows what the actual magical item is, and you have to keep a note pinned to your DM screen to remind yourself.
To me, it adds garlic powder to otherwise delicious ice cream.
The first part I think is good. He acknowledges like a problem with the +2 sword is just like it's not very enchanting or magical, and again we have gotten away from that. But yeah,
the other solution is don't just make it a +2 sword. Give it some other interesting powers and abilities. If it's a weird alien artifact, don't just make it a good gun. Give it some other weirdness about it.
Yeah, make them interesting. Give them personality. This is again less of a problem with modern D&D, but it is still the case that sometimes in mini games there's just sort of standard magical loot, and it can be kind of ho hum. All right, let's move on to the next M.
My favorite M.
Money. Player characters can accumulate vast amounts of gold and gems in almost no time. The abundance of monetary treasure in the world is exceeded only by the character's greed to obtain more. And when characters gain hundreds and thousands of pieces of gold, they have everything under control. Why should they not? They know how much everything costs, from the smallest dagger to Baba Yaga's hut. In our world, prices are never constant. In a world with so much less communication and trade than ours, think about how much prices would vary from place to place and from time to time, even for something as simple as an arrow. So,
sure. Yeah.
We have talked about this at length. We did a whole episode on gold. And Matt, there are lots of things to do about that. I think we concluded, and I think that this is still the right call, is you should not probably get too much into exchange rates and various currency forms and cross-border arbitrage in your games, unless that is the specific goal of your Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Because I guarantee you that if you say that a potion of healing costs 100 gold pieces, and then they go to the next town over, and you're like, oh, it's actually 127 gold pieces based on the exchange rate. So, your players are not going to think that's very fun or interesting. I promise you. Even though that might be like
You're
a
just
realistic
doing more work for yourself.
Yeah. Here's the thing. You have to, in many ways, let go of certain aspects of realism and verisimilitude. Like, yes, of course, in the actual medieval and ancient world, something might cost a different amount depending on what kingdom you're in. In D&D, that is not fun. That is not a good time certainly for you, and probably not for your players. So don't do that. Don't spend too much time on that.
Yeah, you can have a place where things are more dear. The suggestion of having a table anytime you're looking up the price and then adding a modifier to the price, it just seems like a lot of work. It doesn't actually solve the original problem in any meaningful way that the players just have a lot of gold. If things are slightly more expensive some places, the structural issue is still there. Mr. Gary Koopa.
Gary Kappa. And this is something that you see sometimes, maybe even often, early in certain adventure modules, because when your players don't have a lot of gold, it does sort of matter, but it increasingly matters very little as their careers progress, and it makes a lot of work for you and ultimately doesn't make a big deal after they've gotten their first, set of magical items. It can be interesting. There might be a interesting way to implement this in a campaign, but the important thing for you as a dungeon master, as a game master, is that it's just going to be a lot of work for you and not a lot of impact or value, in my humble opinion. We also talked about how if value rates are variable, then how can you cast spells with material components, right? If something costs 1,000 gold pieces in diamond dust,
sure.
If you cross the border, do you need more diamond dust, or is it based on sort of like an absolute value of something? Who sets that? Probably like the god of exchanges or something. But yeah, I mean, Listen,
Right. It depends on if the god of exchanges believes in what
the labor theory of
neoclassical
value.
economic theory of value, just a market value, or if they believe in labor
Is
theory of value,
is
some
the
other
god of
theory
exchanges a
value.
Marxist or not? It's important. It depends on how much
A
time and
Marxist.
you're gonna need. All right. Let's see. Another problem the characters may encounter is that if hauling all their loot around, carrying thousands of gold pieces is hard work. The characters may get it into their heads to change their gold into platinum or even to gems of equal value in order to accumulate even greater masses of treasure. For this, the characters will have to go to the money changer. But do you think that any businessman would be involved in a venture that doesn't stand to turn a profit? Most money changers will charge a stiff fee to change the character's cash, typically from 1 to 10% of the amount changed. If the characters think it is ludicrous that they should have to pay for some simple money changing, they can go through the Thieves Guild or less established intermediaries, but they'd better look out for a Fool's Platinum, a variation on the second level mage's Fool's Gold spell, and Glass Gems. They'll be in big trouble if they try to pay for anything with this bogus money. You get what you pay for, but you never get something for nothing.
Cleric Jesus overturning the fantasy money changers
Fantasy money.
tables outside the dungeon.
Matt, what do you think about this? Do you think there's any like value in doing this for your players?
There's a range of play of Dungeons and Dragons, and in certain types of play, the idea of how do we get all of the value that we need to buy this magic item or to buy this ship or buy this keep out of the dungeon we looted it from is an interesting problem, right? We need 10,000 gold, but it's mostly in copper and silver pieces and bits of furniture and rare rugs. How do we get it out of here? Again, in certain types of play, that's an interesting problem. In other types of play, maybe it's just more fun for the players to have a bag of holding, and they either have a lot of gold or they're out of gold.
I feel the same way. You can do both. Like in my Mothership game, my players have recently acquired 15 million credits in legacy corporate stocks and bonds, but they stole them from ancient Yakuza robots. So like that's not like it's not liquid, and the longer they have it, like the more trouble that they're gonna be in. So like it would be crazy if they could just spend 15 million credits, but the task of laundering and liquidating that cash is its own adventure. And I think that's fun. But like you do want to use this sparingly, right? Like it isn't necessarily like a great time to every time you want to like spend money, you got to go to a money changer and roll on a table to see how much they bilk you for.
If it's not what the adventure is about, it's a bad idea. If it is what this particular session is about, it could be fun. I think it's hilarious. Your players have some unliquid bonds of extreme value that if they can just figure out how to sell them without getting killed, they could finally be rich.
I'm very excited to see how they approach this problem. But yeah, that is sort of like what it's about. That's the thing. This needs to be sort of essential to your adventure. Otherwise, it's just kind of like busy work. Let's move on from.
All right, what's our last M?
It's a miscellaneous, Matt. It's Hufflepuff.
Miscellaneous. Okay.
A few more topics under the theme of mystery in the campaign do not fit nicely into any of the other three categories. One of these is the concept of levels. How many times have PCs asked NPCs, "What level are you?" Sorry, I want to pause here. Never? Has that ever happened to you? Has one of your players ever asked an NPC, like, "What level are you?"
No. I guess with certain groups, it could be a problem. It's never happened to me, Rob.
Not a problem for me. No, I mean, sometimes I think players have.
I got things locked down in the gaming room.
I think some people sometimes will like try to like get you to tell them like how strong or what level someone is, but like that's a weird thing to directly ask. There is sort of like an interesting point here. Levels are a means for the DM to gauge the relative strengths of characters to monsters and for players to ascertain the extent of their characters' abilities, not those of other characters or NPCs. In the actual game universe, there should be no real concept of character levels any more than there should be a concept of monsters hit dice. A monster may be really tough, according to the rumors from adventurers who have encountered the critter, but this may be because it has a high armor class. Our swords just couldn't get through its hide. High dexterity. It moves so fast we couldn't hit it. Some magical defense. Our swords just passed right through the beast. Or a lot of hit points. We kept hitting it, but the sucker just wouldn't lie down and die. I do think there's a hint of
Rob,
good advice here.
All of these, all of these examples are talking about like a not a very fancy concept that has a fancy word attached to it, diegesis, right? So, Rob, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is like things that happen within the story, right? This is that movie scene where there's a fun track playing and the characters are doing something, and then they press stop on the boom box, and the music that you just thought you were hearing associated with the movie turns off, right? And something that's not diegetic, right, is the soundtrack that's added to the movie that we don't hear. And in game terms, right, you can extend this thinking. Does your wizard actually know that he's 5th level, or does he just know that he's more powerful than he was before?
Yeah. This is good advice. I think you should try to get in the habit of it. Unless absolutely necessary, or if it's the type of game where they would know specific numbers and abilities, get in the habit of being like, yeah, it looks tough. It's got an armored hide. It's moving very quickly. Your players will figure out things like hit points and armor class on their own, but this is pretty basic advice, but it's good advice.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If it's the example given, a conversation with an NPC, most of the time I'm like avoiding having talks of like, I could do 18 damage a round, or I have 139 hit points to the guard outside the castle wall. But at the same time, I like, after a round or two, just telling my players the difficulty of hitting this monster, because it just communicates what's going on faster. And if you start down this like diegetic, non-diegetic thinking, at a certain point you're like, should my players, the people sitting at my table, even have the character sheets for their character? Should they know? They should know that fireball shoots a ball of fire. They should know how much damage it does. I should keep, you can take this to, I think, a foolish logical extreme that gets in the way of actual play. But it is something to, just generally be aware of, is how gamey do you want your conversations at your table to be?
That's a great point. And this is something that you want to use sparingly, but I do think opening with a more diegetic, a more flavor description, and then especially if it is a type of game where combat is going to go for a bit, just you can at a certain point say like, yeah, they're bloody, they have half their hit points, or you need to get a whatever to hit them. But starting out, opening with a more flavorful description can help set the scene, help make it feel add a little bit to the verisimilitude. Matt makes a great point though. Don't carry this to like its logical extreme, because like if you really want to make it like authentically your players are in the know what they would know, then you're going to take a lot of stuff away from them, logically,
including like their character sheets and all of their stats and stuff, which that could be fun.
Could be fun, maybe.
But
maybe not.
It would be a lot of work. I don't think I would want to play in it for very long, but it could be something you could do. But yeah, beware of overthinking yourself to death.
Yeah. One more bit of advice from Miscellaneous. These are the types of responses that the DM should get in the habit of using to reflect their players' uncertainty about even their own capabilities, referring to something like, can I pick the lock? You won't know until you try. As mentioned on page 19 of the AD&D First Edition DMG, PC thieves should not be certain of their success. If one asks, am I hidden in the shadows? The response should be to the effect of, you're trying. Finding and removing traps is another problem. Too many times when the player asks, are there any traps? The DM responds, no. When the player missed his roll or there were simply no traps present, the DM should say, "You don't find any." This is much more indicative of the character's state of mind after checking. It is his opinion that there aren't any traps, but some might have escaped his notice.
I mean,
Generally,
I'm
yeah.
a big fan of you don't know until you try, but at the same time, if you're an expert of picking locks, perhaps you should be able to identify a simple lock versus a complex one.
This is another one of those, I don't know, man, it depends kind of things. Because, Matt, you're exactly right. If you are an expert lock picker, there are a lot of locks that your DM should be able to say, yes, you can pick that. And you just do. Same for very easy forms of sneaking. If you're an incredibly stealthy character, yeah, of course you can just do that. At the same time, if there's an element of risk or it is uncertain, I do think it's good to be yeah, you're never really sure. I think that's very reasonable, not to punish your players or be you didn't see that trap, just to keep the element of uncertainty alive.
Sure. However, at the same time, there are certain things that in order for many groups of people to go forward, they need to establish some certainties. Yeah,
Yes.
we came up with a great plan, but if we can't guarantee that any of us can hide in this room, then that plan doesn't work. If you can't tell us whether it's possible or likely that we'll be able to break open the panel on this side of the door and short circuit it, we can't move forward. There's some things you just have to say, hey, yes, your character can know
you can do
something
that, yeah.
about this, please.
Another thing to use selectively. In these contexts, I sort of agree, especially about things about traps. I very rarely use traps in my D&D games, but I also never say no, there aren't any traps, because you would never know. You would never know for sure that there are no traps. But if they do a good check, you can be yeah, you're reasonably confident there are no traps in this room, and usually they aren't. Again, this is not something you want to do if you are constantly throwing really difficult traps and cackling with glee as your players trundle into them. But it does reflect, like Mr. Gary Kappa says, that the true character's mind.
Yeah.
This article ends with another very long scenario that I'm gonna skip because the first one was already really tedious, but I'll just tell you that players 1 through 3 are much more engaged with the game and excited about the strange and mysterious items that they have acquired.
I can't believe how well they fought. It was a good thing I had my enchanted sword, Narsil. It clove through their slimy green scales like butter.
Sorry, I do want to read one more part. I tell you, those things weren't lizard men. They fought too well. And what about those bracelets? Isn't there a race that has a godlike lobster lady? They're called Quantoon or something like that, I think. Anyway.
Sure. Is it better if your players never figure out the things that they killed? I guess. Yeah.
Maybe that's more fun.
Maybe.
Anyway. I hope you all enjoyed our trip into the archives today. I do find it enjoyable to read what dungeon masters were worried about in ages past. Sometimes there's good advice, sometimes there's not, but mostly I'm just glad that in my games I don't have to deal with whatever Mr. Gary Kappa is dealing with on what appears to be a regular basis. That would drive me up the fucking wall.
Yeah, I think the other important thing that he misses is don't start thinking about this too much. At the end of the article, he started thinking about it too much, and he worked himself into a weird hole. But on the whole, great advice to in general, sometimes let your players discover things. Keep a bit of mystery. It's something like a wand. Is it a wand? Well, it's something like a wand.
It's something like a wand.
Well, is it a wand or not?
Is it a wand or not?
Don't frustrate your players with this type of vagariness. Oh boy, what a fun article, Rob. Thanks for finding this in the archive of
You're
Dungeon
welcome.
Magazine 161 from the George H.W. Bush presidency.
That's right. We will link all the relevant things. You can look at the picture of the Galadriel doll yourself and the plunger art and enjoy this.
The frightening Galadriel real doll. Yeah.
Yeah.
She her waist is encircled by a wide mesh belt. You want to see her beautiful, gracefully sculpted legs, which are hidden by a dress right now. But I assure you,
they're there. They're there if you want to look. Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you have questions, concerns, thoughts, suggestions, you can always email us at dmofnone@gmail.com.
We might not respond though. We're the strong silent types, you know.
That's right. Just like Gary Kappa.
Just like Gary Koopa.
You can join our Discord. We've got an Instagram, a TikTok, YouTube. You can find that all in the show notes.
Thanks for listening.
And a Patreon. If you like what you hear, you want to hear more, head over to patreon.com/dungeonmasterofnone. Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody, and keep rolling them dice.